In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can use the calculator to make one of these scatter diagrams or scatter plots that we talked about in the last video. Now, in this box up here, I have all the information necessary to create one of these pictures, but I'm not going to read that to you. We're going to actually skip all the way down here to example number one, and we'll kind of revisit a lot of this text here and discuss a lot of these things in the box as we work through example number one. So let's see what we have. I want to describe the association or the relationship between number of hours studied by students and final exam scores for the given data below. Now, like we talked about in the previous video, oops, we should be able to kind of imagine that one of these variables, maybe like hours studied, is playing the role of X, and the Y variable would be something like a final exam score. So what we're going to see down here is that we're going to create a picture, and we want to have in our picture, this horizontal axis kind of representing again a number, oops, forgot the word of there. So we'll say a number of hours studied. And on the vertical axis, we want a final exam score. So I'm going to try to go ahead and fill in this box with this scatter diagram picture, and I'll show you how to create that right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I switch over to my calculator. I'm going to go to my Stat button and go to Editing a List. Now I've already set this up ahead of time. As you can see, I've already entered in all of my X's in my first column and all of my Y's in my second column. I'd ask you to pause the video right now so you can try to do the same thing and follow along with what we'll do next. Okay, so once I have all this information entered, in order to create the picture, I'm going to click on Second and my Y equals button. That's going to take me to my stat plots, where we normally made things like box plots much earlier in the semester. I'm going to go underneath the first option, and I'm going to click On. And the option that I want to make for type is actually this very first option. That's the one I want. It's got a bunch of dots on it. And notice it's going to ask me what list in my calculator is acting like my X's and which is acting like my Y's. So I'm going to go ahead and select those. Again, down here, TI is just letting you be your own person. So choose today whether you feel like a square, a plus sign, a dot, or a smaller dot, and your favorite color. So I'm going to just leave things as is, and then I can click Zoom and the number 9. Now notice that when I do this, I create a picture of dots, and I have my x-axis down here, and I have my y-axis up there. So if I was going to go ahead and create a picture of this, I would just kind of go ahead and in here, I would just start to kind of mark out just really loosely, what did this particular picture look like? In fact, I'm just going to switch over to some dots just because it's a little bit easier to try to sketch out. So I don't know, I had a picture and it looked something kind of like this, right? That's kind of roughly what the picture looked like. And actually, that's all I would ever ask that you do when I ask you to create one of these on your own. You don't have to do anything fancy. Just give me a rough estimate of what that picture looked like. Now, once I have this picture, I can start to see that maybe a particular trend starts to appear. And this is where these different features down here are going to come into play. We want to be able to take a look at a picture like this and describe the form, the direction. Eventually, we'll try to describe the strength and anything that's unusual about this. Okay, so when we talk about form, you can see up here, we say that for form, what we really want to know is the overall pattern of these dots. Like if these are pebbles, if you will, do they kind of form into some linear path or some other sort of shape? And like here, it maybe seems pretty obvious that the shape that these kind of form into is a line, right? I mean, not a perfect straight line, but kind of like a general path that is sort of like a line. So I might say here that this is a linear shape. For direction, I'm kind of interested in, as I move along this picture from left to right, does the data go up? Does it go down? What's the order? And here it looks like the data is going up. So I'll say that this data is increasing. It looks like the trend is that as I study more and more and more hours, or I find students that have studied more hours, they tend, not always, but they tend to have earned higher scores. Okay, strength again, I can't measure precisely. We'll come back to that later. But when we get to unusual features, what we're really looking for here are things like outliers, like data points that are extremely far away from other data points. Now here, I'm going to claim that I don't really think that there are any outliers, because all these data points do kind of seem relatively close to one another. If I had had a data point that was maybe like way out here where this red dot is, then maybe I would have called that an outlier. And I'll always try to make outliers unbelievably easy to spot when we look at pictures like this. Okay? So overall, I could go ahead and summarize the following. I could say, so there is a positive, or you could say increasing linear relationship between number of hours studied and final exam scores, right? There seems to be this kind of relationship. Okay, so this is the way that I would go ahead and create a scatter plot and also begin to describe it.